What's up, guys? Coach Tim here with another episode of Managing the Madness. I'm here with my girl, Makenna Garcia. What up?
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's very good to see you. It's so good to see you, even though we just finished working
I know.
out.
I've been here.
You've been here for like an hour already. So obviously today we're talking to you a little bit about sports background, history, career, all that fun stuff. We've known each other for like
12 years.
12.
Going on
least,
13.
Going on 13.
Yeah.
So I know a lot about you, obviously. They don't know a lot about you. I wanted to kind of share your story. It's an awesomely deep, intricate, traumatic.
A lot happening.
Yeah, a lot going on. So, let's start from scratch. Let's start from the beginning, where you grew up, family, background, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Pflugerville my whole life. I think I've lived in like 2 houses, but
Nice.
yeah, I have 2 older sisters. So I'm an aunt to 6, going on 7. And yeah, started playing soccer when I was like 3 or 4 and been doing that ever since. So yeah, really just that, and then started with Lonestar pretty soon after that, and here we are now.
Yeah.
It's just,
So what was it, Paisel?
yeah,
Was it Paisel?
Yeah, it
Okay.
was.
Yeah, okay.
way back when.
I know, right? Like, so, and then, was it Manu that brought you over? Coach Manu brought you over to
Yes.
Lone Star where we met, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was with like Tim Taylor, and then you.
Yeah.
And then I started playing goalkeeper when I was like 7 or 8. So I wanted to be a field player so bad. I know.
I take
I wanted
full
to be
credit.
a field player so bad
I
for
take
like
full
the
credit.
longest.
You were so mad at me for putting you in
I
the-
know.
you
My
were
mom was
so-
too.
Was she really?
Oh yeah.
I don't recall
She brought
that.
this story up the other day. She was like, I wanted you on the field so bad. Like, she was like upset.
Really?
I mean, probably not actually upset, but like
Well.
wanted me on the field.
See, I know you were hacked off at me for it,
But
but
then
I,
after a while, I would volunteer. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to be in there.
Yeah,
after a while.
yeah.
But no, yeah.
I don't
she
remember-
was
I
too.
don't remember-
She could have made it up, but we don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, she was probably, as always,
just
concerned for your
worried
safety.
about my.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's probably what it was.
Yeah, no.
But I don't remember her ever having a conversation with me about
No,
I don't
probably
want-
not.
No, she would
No.
never do that. No, Lisa would never do that.
No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So started playing goalkeeper for me when you were like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And you were the smallest one on the team too, probably. At that
Right,
point
so
in
it
time.
made sense.
Yeah, it made perfect sense to put you in goal. So let's talk a little bit about kind of like your experience in like club soccer, just
Yeah.
in general, right? Because obviously you excelled and you did well, but let's kind of talk about going from like junior academy system, which a lot of people who listen to the podcast kind of have an idea about it because I've talked to a lot of soccer
Yeah.
people already. But let's talk a little bit about like that progress.
Yeah, I feel like when I was younger, like starting goalkeeper, like it was a little different because I think I was still learning how to transition from being like a kid and the coach always like talking to you and like being in your face and like asking how you're doing, like whatever all the time. And then once
Yeah.
we kind of started getting more into select, I was getting some coaches that like really weren't
As engaged.
yeah. And like I feel like one of them like really didn't even know my name truly and like
Really?
would hardly talk. And I was just starting goalkeeper too, so I was like still trying to learn that and
Yeah.
like whatever. And then Casey Crabb comes over, and I mean, he saved me playing. I think
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
think I would have lasted much longer if he
Okay.
wouldn't have come over. But
Love him.
oh my gosh, yeah, no, saved me. Like made me love everything again. Like helped me with goalkeeping, was my coach for a little bit, and then I feel like after that, like going through the years, like Stilly and Tristan and Dawn, like I feel like all those were really great experiences for me, and I feel like I developed a lot in those years. And then by the time I was with Sophia and Wes in like my last few years, I was like top of my game, like ready to go, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I loved Lone Star. I feel like I was out there when I didn't need to be. Like I was there all the time.
Yeah.
Even like
Yeah,
over
yeah,
breaks, I would try to just come out and like hang out with
Yeah,
everyone, just
yeah.
like because I just loved being out there and everything. But yeah, I think for me it was really great. Like that beginning like transition was a little hard at first, but then
Sure.
after that, like
Let's talk a little bit about like some of the differences between really being a field player and being a goalkeeper. Like, I mean, obviously there's the obvious one is you're not in the field playing, you're not running as much, you can use your hands, but like speak to it from a training perspective. Like, how does the training go in practice? Are you with the team or are you without the team? Like, especially in Lone Star scenarios, right?
Yeah, Lone Star. So we would usually have like beginning, I guess, of practice. I'd go over with the goalkeeper coaches and have maybe like 20-30 minutes of just like training, like
Actual
goalkeeper specific. And then we would head over with the team, and even then I would do some like field player stuff. Like if they were doing small sided stuff, I'd be on the field, and which I think really helped my footwork in the long run for sure. Like that was probably the best I've been with my feet. And then we'd go into like games where I'd be in goal and stuff. And then obviously like once you get into college, it's different. But
Sure.
but yeah, I think that it was good. It was enough. And then like I think the adjustment of not being on the field, like I think goalkeeper is just like a completely different like position mentally and like physically as well. But
let's speak to that a little bit. I think that there's a big difference in what your brain has to kind of process and deal with versus what a field player has to deal with.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think I'm still learning to like adjust to it and kind of work on it, because I'm a very like competitive, like I want to do everything I can, like I will take losing to heart, like I'll take a goal scored on me to heart, like that's me. Like so I think I still to this day work on it, but trying to adjust to the mental side of like it can't always be just my fault that like a goal happens. Like there's 10 people in front of me that it has to get through before.
Correct.
And then just managing that piece I think has still been something that I've had to work on. And then I think being a goalkeeper, like you're talking to everyone in front of you, which is the entire team. And so then you're kind of like, I get this, people tell me a lot that the goalkeeper is kind of like a quarterback on like a football team, and the way that they like direct the people in front of them and kind of talk to them and do stuff like that. So I think it's becoming more of an adjustment to be more of like a leadership piece when not being like a captain or not being, because most coaches don't really like goalkeepers to be captains, like fair enough and whatever, but I think it's having to learn how to manage being like a captain in not a captain like role.
Well, I think it's interesting because like you have to speak to literally every other player on the field, like whether it's an outside back or a center back or like you can see from that position. And I remember coaching, early on games with like junior academy where we would, that first game of the season, we would coach from center back.
Yeah.
Like right in front of the goalkeeper or right next to the goalkeeper. So you can literally see all of the shape that's going on, all the tactical positioning that needs to happen if people are too tight or too short or too deep or too wide or too narrow.
Yeah.
Like, so you have to be able to communicate to every one of them, where a field player may only have to deal with the people that are in their immediate kind of area, whether it be on the same side of the field or in the center. But an outside back's not necessarily speaking to another outside back as much, or the opposing winger, right?
Yeah.
So like you have to be able to talk to every one of them, and that's 10 different people, 10 different personalities, 10 different roles to play. So you have to be able to maybe even communicate personality. So
because people take things differently. We've had that conversation in college too, I feel like, with being able to, like, people take criticism differently or direction differently, like your tone of voice, like the way you whatever during just game settings and things like that. And so it's been an adjustment trying to, especially in college when people are older and they're able to like tell you what they like and don't like and how they respond and things like that. But I think adjusting to doing that, and then I think it builds your soccer IQ because you have to know like how to direct people and what's happening and things like that. And then the mental piece of just like, if a goal gets scored on, like letting that go and continuing to be able to like finish the game at the top of your game, because I used to really get, I mean, I would break down during games when I was younger.
Absolutely.
I know y'all all saw it. Like I still, and so now
there's that level of responsibility that I think is just elevated in your position as the last line, right? And then because you're not necessarily thinking it's got to go through 10 of the players first, right? It's the fact that like you're standing on the line and it goes past you, right? And you're 20-something years old, and you're like, I'm still processing that it's not my fault necessarily if this is going in, right? Like it's that's a, whereas it's a center forward doesn't have anywhere near the same level of mental responsibility that happened 30, 40, 60 yards away from me. Right. So there's definitely a lot of responsibility involved.
But I still have a way. I feel like the goalkeeper's definitely for me. I love hitting the ground and doing those crazy like saves that everyone freaks out about. Like I love all of that stuff. So I couldn't imagine being on the field anymore. But I think it's a balance of like the fun side of it and then like the mental side and having to like.
Well, and I think to that point about being able to hit the ground and stuff like that, like, and how that coincides with the level of responsibility, right? You have an elevated sense of responsibility, which ties into the fact that you're willing to do things physically that other people on the field are not willing to do in order to keep the ball from crossing the line, in order to keep your team in a position to win the game, right? So if you don't have both of those things, like one of those things are hand in hand, right? You don't get that sense of like, I'm willing to sell out every ounce of my body to do this, and not also have the sense that it's my problem, it's my responsibility, it's my fault if something goes wrong, right? Because those things don't happen exclusively, right? They're coming together at that point. Your heightened sense of responsibility over the years has grown, and therefore your willingness to sell out your body to do anything it takes to keep the ball from crossing, right, is grown with that, right?
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. So Lonestar obviously was a massive piece of it. Having worked there myself, obviously know all the coaches you're talking about, quality people, fantastic stuff. Let's talk a little high school.
Yeah.
We went to high school after obviously winning the high school, played high school soccer. Let's talk about a little bit of the balance between club, high school, maybe levels of differences, similarities from like style of play or even like the level of play.
Right.
The successes you had, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I played for Hendrickson my freshman year, right before DA started, and it was so much fun. And I had Rini Reeve, and she, I mean, probably the most fit I've ever been in my entire life. But no, it was a great experience, and we ended up winning state, which was really big.
Awesome.
And I mean, yeah, that was like a dream. I feel like I still try to like. It feels like a dream at this point, and then I ended up being able to get the MVP for the state tournament, which was really cool, and I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting like a Bree Hunter to be called, and I was so excited. No, it was super fun, and the level is definitely different, I think, from club, at least on my team specifically, and then like once we started playing teams from like the Houston, Dallas area, which obviously those are girls that I play against in club, that's when the level was definitely like closer to club for sure, but no, it was such a fun experience, and I think it gave me that piece of like we did small-sided stuff every day, like to goal, which is my favorite, and a lot more like scrimmages and things like that, which you don't always get in club because you're having to worry about every other piece of like building the team and the way the team builds from the back and just all the different things that go into club. But with high school you can kind of have more fun and work on things like that. So then I got a lot of my like speed and quickness and like reaction stuff from there, and so that like really helped, and it was really fun just my freshman year, and then we started DA after that. So
and with DA, like, you know, the development academy, right, you can't play both. You have to play one or the other, right? I was very sad about that. My principal begged me for the next 3 years to come back and play, but yeah, it was very fun, and I mean, obviously, it was kind of one of those things that was like a dream come true in the 1 year that I got to play. So obviously, I would have loved to like go back and play, but it very much ended the way that everyone wants it to, you know. You're one and
so
done.
Can't ask for anything more.
I went out for a year. We had a lot of fun. We won state. I'm MVP, and then I'm gonna hang up the high school boots, and we're good to go, right?
Yeah. So it was so much fun. I loved high school, and I made so many good friends. I still have a friend who, when I was a freshman, she was a senior goalkeeper, and I ended up coming in, and I thought she wouldn't like me, and I was very worried about that, but we're best friends, and we still talk to this day.
That's cool.
And so I made so many great friendships, and there's actually the alumni game coming up.
Of course.
This coming week. And they were like, "Are you coming?" And I was like, "Sure." And my coach, my old coach from like middle school, her husband's the head coach there now at Hendrickson.
Okay.
And she was like, "My daughter said though that you're not allowed to play." And I was like, "Oh, okay, then I'll just come watch.
I'll just be present.
Yeah.
I'll sit in the sidelines and hang out."
But yeah, so it's been really cool, and I still go back and visit and see the little banner on the side of our building and all the good stuff.
That's cool.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's before we kind of move along, let's kind of stay in like your youth career. I want to get a little bit of anecdotal kind of storytelling on family and how it interacted with soccer. So let's talk about your mom a little bit. Let's talk about like the support system you had in youth soccer. Like how did that work? You know, as far as who drove practices, mom, sisters, like you know, maybe some fun stories that go along with that. You know, how did you guys do meals, snacks? Like, talk a little bit about like, you know, being a high level youth athlete takes a lot of support, is what I'm learning through all these interviews, right? So, and it's different. Like, there are different nuances for everybody. So, talk a little bit to that.
Yeah. So mine was a little different because My sisters are a lot older than me, 15 and 17 years older.
That's
so they were
good.
basically already out of the house by the time I was born.
Yep.
So they were kind of already a little bit more out of the picture, I feel like, at that point, starting families, finishing college, all those good stuff. It was really just me and my mom. My parents divorced when I was young, and so growing up, it was always me and her, so she did everything. And living off her teacher salary, we needed some help sometimes, and that's when people like Chad Brown come in, and the Brown family in general, and Manu Castano, and all those great people that like became that kind of extra support system that my mom couldn't always, fill. It's just her and me, and so there's a lot, I feel like, that goes into God's sports and school and just everything, and so they were those people that would help me. They drive me to practice sometimes. I remember Chad bought my first pair of goalkeeper gloves for me because my mom couldn't afford them at the time, and brought them to the house. I remember vividly. He came over and brought my first pair of gloves, and I think we still have them to this day. I think my mom kept them because that's just what she would do.
Yeah, I can see
but
that.
so people like that very much helped build me, and I would not have been able to stay in Lone Star and in the path that I went on without those people, and even without Lone Star in general, all the people there, my coaches, the support staff there, everyone took care of me and my mom and our situation, and so for us, those people are just saving graces to this day, and so growing up, my mom tried to do as much as she could, but obviously she taught as well, and so Chad would take me, Monty would take me. Once I got old enough, obviously I would take over from there. And my mom reconnected with my stepdad back in my, middle school years, and they got married, and then he got diagnosed with brain cancer in middle school for me, and so then she was obviously having to go back and forth from Houston, so then I would have to jump in the car with, again, whoever else was available on the soccer team, Brielle Gomez, Abby Allen, all those people, and they would take care of me. I'd go spend the night with them for a few nights. They'd take me to do whatever I needed to do, and all the games and things like that. And so, I think, oh my God, there's just been so many people that aren't even in my family that I think, you, everyone, there's so many people in my, outside of my family that have become, my family and my support system, because there just aren't many of them in my family, and then the ones that were busy, and my mom had things, and all that good stuff. So I think, oh my gosh,
it's still, it's and I recall, so when you graduated, I was no longer coaching, we were still training, but the letter that you guys, did she write it for, basically for you, right? And it was, I don't know, 3-4 pages long, and it was, Wes got it originally.
I was about to say, she gave it to
Wes.
Yes.
But he literally was good enough, because he's awesome, right? I know he sent that on to all of us that were included in that letter. That letter was 4 pages basically of gratitude for helping my daughter and helping our family get to this point. And it's just, the storyism, it's just one of those awesome feel-good stories where you're this great family needs help, and you have this awesome community of friends, teammates, coaches, support people around that are just willing to do the little things to help out, and then you end up going down the road going down, which
there
is
was
amazing,
there was no way that would have been possible without everyone, and so it's definitely it's something that you just have to give credit to all the time, especially now as I'm going through college and getting to do all these amazing things and whatever, it wouldn't have been possible at all. So it's
So let's jump out into college or even recruiting, right? Let's go there first, right? So going through high school, when did you actually start? Because your process would have been what, junior year?
Yeah, well, so I didn't, that rule wasn't in place yet.
Correct, right?
So I was being recruited by my 8th grade freshman year.
There wasn't a rule yet.
Yeah, so I was getting recruited by some schools by 8th grade and going on visits and stuff, which it feels insane now.
I know, right?
And and then freshman year, by that point, I was very much going to camps and talking to coaches on a daily basis and doing things like that. And then by the end of my sophomore year, I was ready to make that decision, and a lot of the girls on my team at the time had already made that decision,
Yeah.
and so I thought I was late. Being
Yeah,
a sophomore in high school, I thought, which is
insane.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
No, I thought
Yeah.
I was like late to the process.
No
and I was
way.
like, all right,
No
I
way.
gotta get going because
Yeah.
everyone else is already good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so then by the, I think like April or May of my sophomore year, I was already committed and knew where I was going, and so then by there I was just kind of continuing to play and master the craft until I went into college. But
who all were you speaking to during that time frame?
Yeah, so I think the first place I remember ever going to and like ever visiting in 8th grade was Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so that was super cool, and they were very nice, especially because it was my first time. Back then I was very shy and would not have a conversation at all. And so I was just like mute, I feel like, the whole time. And they were like, so you can talk. But yeah, they were my first. And then freshman year, sophomore year, I was talking to people like Texas State, Auburn, Alabama, some other like smaller schools in Texas, SFA, UCF, like towards the end of my recruitment, which was pretty cool. And then I think for the most part by that point, and I think if I would have waited a little bit longer, I might have had more like talk. But again, I thought
6 months later.
I thought sophomore year was really late,
right?
and so
but it's amazing how that changes. Like,
I know,
especially now with the rules in place where they can't talk
till junior year,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which it shortens your window of time, but at the same time, like you're older to make that decision.
Yeah, and I feel like that's such a prime time to like it's such a good time to talk to coaches.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're so young, like, I don't know, people just develop in those years, like, and just could be a completely different player by the time they're in college. Like, I don't know. I just feel like now looking back, it's like that was insane to think that freshman and sophomore year was like late, and I was like stressed that I wasn't like committed yet. But yeah, and so then by the end of sophomore year, I committed to Auburn and had just been playing Lonestar by that point and going to some of their camps every once in a while and meeting some of the girls from my class and just going on the visit every once in a while, watching their games and stuff. But just going through showcases and just continuing to talk to them on a daily basis. And then my, what was it, senior year? December. 6 months before I go into college.
I remember where I was, and I remember getting the text from you, because I was going to dinner with my wife. We were going to, it was their staff dinner from Connolly High School. And we were actually in Pflugerville at some Mexican restaurant that I've never been before. Yeah. And I was literally getting out of the car to go to dinner with my wife. And I was like, that Florida showcase in December. December showcase.
Our last game of the season, of course. I don't even know why I tried to make the play that I did, but I went up for it off a cross and got bumped in the air. When I came back down, my ACL just completely disintegrated, I think. And that started that whole process. And it was crazy because when I was there, like, so many people tested my like ACL at that point. And again, that was my first one, so I probably looked like I was like, I sounded like I was being like brutally murdered. I was screaming so hard and like having a whole meltdown, and I had no idea what was going on. But so many people tested it, like every trainer there, and they were all like, it's not your ACL, like, you're fine, like it's something with your knee, but not your ACL. And I think it's just because my entire body was clenched so hard that I like, my body wasn't letting them like feel it. And so then I came home and was like waiting for the results, and I remember my mom like probably calling me and was just like, it is your ACL, and it was gone. I mean, there was nothing left. It wasn't even like it split, like it was just gone. And so that was just like,
okay, what do we do now?
That started the whole just like, okay, well, what happens now? Because I had never, I mean, I don't think I had ever, knock on wood, been injured before that point.
I've known you your whole youth career. I don't think
not a major ever.
Nothing more than a weak setback.
Not at all. And so that was just a complete 360, I think. And I was very much in my, I like to say in my prime at the time. I was doing probably the best I had ever done, and we had just come off the national championship my junior year. Summer, literally the summer before that. And so I was very much in a great place and was so ready for college, knew that was going to be just a great transition, and I was there and ready to go and things like that. And so then once that happened, it was just kind of like, whoa. And I think when I talk to people to this day, I wouldn't take it back. Like, I think my injury, like, changed, it matured me a lot, and I think I was already very mature for my age at the time, but I think it matured me in a different way of, like, understanding that soccer and sports isn't your entire life. And I think when you do it your entire life, you think that, like, and to this day, I still have people in college that, like, haven't had a major injury yet, and they come up to me and they're like, I don't know what I would do if I couldn't play soccer, or if I, like, did get an injury like that. And it's just like, that scares me for them, but I think going through it and realizing that, like, it really isn't your whole life, and, like, once you do finish, like, you have to not play anymore and, like, go into the real world and, like, have a job and things like that, and, like, it's okay. And it was obviously a very hard adjustment going into being a freshman in college and, like, not being able to play what you've done your whole life and having to learn how to adjust to that and being in pain and learning how to do rehab for 3 to 4 hours every day. And, like,
we spent the spring
I came and trained with you
twice a week at least, doing strength
just trying
work
to do other things and
keeping you somehow fit, right? And because you're obviously in PT the whole time. Then you go into the fall.
And so then I went in and I was getting back into it. I had gotten into
been about 7 or 8 months.
And so the timing was kind of perfect. So we thought. And
exactly.
I had torn it in December. The 10 to 12 month range that they, like, want you to be in was summer and going into September-ish, which is right when season starts for the fall. And so everyone was like, you'll probably be good. Like, you might miss a few of the preseason games, but, like, timing wise, it really might not be that big of a deal.
Probably, if you're going to do it,
do it then.
Anyway.
Yes. And I heard that a lot. And so I was like, you know what? Like, fair enough. I'll get stronger. And I think you get a lot stronger going through a rehab like that than I was before. So I definitely gotten overall a ton stronger.
You never had any time to really devote to that kind of stuff.
Right. And so doing that, I was getting back into it and was starting to do goalkeeper stuff and feeling really great and moving really great. And then my first, like, actual practice back, the very first one, we started doing small-sided stuff, and that was my first, like, goalkeeper, full-on, like, in goal, going back, whatever. And I think it was first, like, 30 minutes. I was going to make a save, and it just popped and just went out on me again, and I went down, and I remember it didn't even hurt. Like, I wasn't really, like, I was in a little pain, but it really was nowhere near the first time. But I just burst into tears because I knew that I had torn it again. And I remember laying there and being like, I don't think I can do this again. Like, I really don't. And during my first one, I remember telling people and even telling myself, like, if you tear it again, like, I think you might need to be done. Like, I don't think, like, the mental side really it took a very big toll on me. And so in my head and, like, to people, I was like, I really don't know if I ever did anything again that I would be able to come back from it. I just didn't, it just didn't feel realistic. And I just, after everything, and, like, understanding what all went into an ACL and, like, everything, I was like, I don't know. And then I went down and I hadn't even gotten to come back. And it was one of those things that I was like, well, you know, you didn't get a chance. You never really
haven't had a chance. You still haven't had a shot. And so then it felt unfair to me and, like, the recovery and just everything to, like, give up without getting a chance to, like, do it again. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna start the process over. So then back to back, got my next surgery down in Pensacola with Dr. Andrews, which was amazing. And I mean, I don't think I'd be where I am now if I wouldn't have gotten it from him. There's the unspoken benefits of like being at a Power 5 D1 school where, like, the resources they have to take care of you in that way are like, oh, by the way, this is the world's leading knee surgeon that we're going to have working on your ACL. But
and I had gotten a different surgery. I had gotten my hamstring graft the first time, and then I obviously tore that, and so then I got the patella tendon the next time. And Dr. Andrews walked in and he was like, you know, like, the hamstring, the piece that they just happened to take just wasn't strong enough. And so he was like, no matter what you really did, like, it just wasn't going to it wasn't going to get any better. And he was like, it would have torn at some point. And honestly, it's probably a good thing that it tore when you were starting back so that you weren't, like, getting into a year or two of playing in the tears, and then you're kind of like almost done with college and having to decide what you're going to do. And so I was like, I guess if you put it that way, I'll take it.
And that's why he's like who he is.
Yeah.
That guy, like he's working on NFL running backs, right?
I know. I remember I went in at like 5 a.m. to go get it, and he walks in to talk to me, and he's like, like we just had an NFL player come in, like I'm going to do him really fast and like push yours back, and then we'll get you in right after. And I was like, okay. Yeah, cool.
Right.
I mean, who is it? Can I get a signature or something? Like what? Yeah. But no, he was, I mean, I've been great ever since, and obviously I'm still playing to this day, and so, but yeah, it was a very long 2-year process of coming back, and sophomore year was kind of that like adjustment period of trying to learn how to play goalkeeper in an ACL brace and how to adjust to moving the way that I used to, and the diving and hitting the ground was different. My brace would get stuck in the ground, and like that, it was just so that whole year was kind of more of like a just relearning how to do everything and adjust to the brace and things like that. And then this past fall was probably my first semester or like season of being fully back, no brace, like just full go, feeling back to myself, like stuff like that. So that was a whole experience. And and whenever my roommate tore hers after I did mine, and a couple other people on my team had, and I just remember telling them like, it is awful. Like it is something that very much is so hard, and it's gonna be hard, and it's gonna be just a mental like roller coaster. But I was like, it really does like make you grow up and like mature and think about like how soccer really doesn't have to be. It's okay to kind of like, I think it's gonna be a lot easier for me once I am done to kind of like transition into.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, instead of being able to play and have this great experience and play all 4 years, never get off the field, and then like go into the real world and be like, oh my gosh, like what do I do now with all this time?
You've had that glimpse into like a world without sport.
And knowing what to do and how to manage your time and find different things to put your time into.
That's a good point.
And different things like that. So I think it was a very great learning experience, and something that I think helped me as a person, and I've grown as a person from it. But when you look at it from the soccer piece, it was very much
devastating.
Yeah.
So at this point now, so we're up to that point, and you have decided to leave.
I did.
Yeah.
So I've been at Auburn.
Talk a little bit through that process and kind of where we're going with that, and the new entity that is the portal. Right, this is something intriguing to me because it's all the rage in the sports world with college sports, and we hear a lot about it with football, obviously, because it's the one college sport that's covered the most.
Right.
But it's across the board, every sport. So let's talk a little bit about this transitional piece, because again, we're transitioning again, which is almost a theme of the transition.
It is. Maybe one day.
Right.
We'll be in a constant place. But so I've been at Auburn the past 3 years, and obviously I loved everything about being there. But it was, again, I think with my ACL and the timing, and both of them, and the timing and just kind of where I was at the time, it just put me a little bit behind where I wanted to be going in. And obviously there were other girls in my position, and they obviously had to take the spot when I was injured. And so, they found a very comfortable place there, and had been doing well, and fair enough, and I love them, and I'm so proud of her, and I continue to like watch her and cheer her on and stuff. But it was just kind of one of those things where like I said, now like my junior year, I feel like how I did in high school and back in club, and which was my, like I like to say, my prime, my peak. But and so I'm starting to finally feel back to that point again, and the way I can move and play the game and stuff like that. And so it was kind of to the point now where for Auburn, they already kind of had a goalkeeper set for the rest of our time, and I'm where I am at now, and I want to play, and I know I'm good enough to, and so it was one of those things. It was a very hard decision, but after the fall, it was just my time, I think, to kind of see what else was out there for me, and so I went in right after season and told my coaches my situation and just kind of how I was feeling, and they were very supportive of it, and obviously were sad to see me go and try to look for something else, but they were very understanding of my situation, and so I got into the portal, and oh my gosh, it felt like high school all over again. Like
how do you get, like, you have to apply?
Yeah,
right?
well, so
the process itself.
for me, so for me, when I went in and I told them,
website and search NCAA
right,
portal,
and I had no idea what I was getting into when I did it, but I just went into them and I was like, like, I think I would like to have my name be put in, and I was like, I just feel like it's one of those things that it's kind of my time to go see if there's something else out there for me. I love them and the program, and wouldn't trade that for the world, but it was just, I think I'm ready to play and see how that goes. And so, so the portal opened, I guess, November 8th maybe, and I had to fill out some paperwork with compliance and things like that, and then compliance was just like after you're done with the paperwork and stuff like that, once the portal opens on the 8th, your name just automatically gets put in.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure what all goes into your profile when a coach sees your name in there. I'm guessing it'd be like your grad year, how many years left of eligibility
you have, which at that point you have 3.
I have 3.
Yeah, because the injury, right?
So I've a good few years.
As a junior, you still have
3 years.
3 years.
But so then my name went in on the 8th, and then but from there it was really just schools reaching out to me through email or my phone number, and then me, if I wanted to reach out to them, kind of just like emailing different schools or reaching out to people who I might have had like their number beforehand from like recruiting in high school and things like that.
They're contacting you rather than like an online site or something like that. They're actually contacting you directly.
Directly. Through like email or phone calls and things like that. And so I started getting some emails from some smaller schools, and then some bigger ones slowly started coming in, and even my coaches like helped me get in contact with some people, and the people at Lonestar helped me get in contact with some people, and things like that. And so I was just kind of talking to a few people and trying to keep in touch. And then I just remember like all of a sudden in my email I was scrolling through just seeing if anyone had reached out that day or if I had missed anything, and I kind of went over an email and it said Louisiana-Lafayette, and I was like, like that sounds familiar. And I clicked on it, and the assistant coach emailed me and was just like, hey, like, we'd love to talk to you about our program. This is kind of where we're at with our like goalkeeper situation and our background of like the team and their history and things like that. And she was like, just, if you're interested, reach out, give me a call, whatever. And so I remember being like, like this could be a really good connection to have. And one of my old friends at Lonestar, we were never on the same team, but I played with her a ton, Lucy, and she was there, and I was like, okay, well, like, I know someone there, and whatever. And I just, one of those things that's like, at the time, you're just kind of trying to build relationships and just have.
No, you're just trying. You're exploring options. Yeah.
And so I emailed her back, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'd love to jump on a phone call with you at some point and just kind of talk through stuff. Anyways, and we jumped on a call, and I remember we talked for probably like 45 minutes to an hour about just everything. And the program, the school, me, like my major, all that good stuff. And then we were just kind of like, oh yeah, we'll keep in touch and things like that. And then all of a sudden she texted me and was like, like, our head coach wants to talk to you, like, whenever you get a chance, if you're interested, do that.
Exactly.
Send over transcripts. We'll kind of just see if things would transfer, like how you're looking credits wise, things like that. With my major, just different, all the good stuff. And so I just continued to kind of keep in touch with them while also talking to some other like smaller schools and some other schools like Pepperdine, SFA, like some of the ones that I talked to before and things like that. And then I remember I was driving home for Thanksgiving break from Auburn, and I was like halfway moving, halfway not. Just I figured it'd be easiest to like take things home, and then if I did decide to like stay, then I could stay and bring my stuff back, and if I didn't, then I could like go elsewhere and already be moved out and things like that. So I was like half moving back, and we're driving home, and me and the head coach hop on a call, and it was so funny. We answer the phone, and he just sounds so excited. He's like, hi. Like, he just sounds like he's so excited. And we talked for, again, probably like an hour. And they're just those people that you just like fall into just
easy
talk,
rhythm.
yes. And you're just talking about everything.
Yeah.
And so super easy to talk to him. And again, we kind of just went over everything that I went over with the head coach or with the assistant coach and just kind of all that good stuff. And he was like, we'd love to have you for a visit, like at some point before you make a decision, if you're able to, and we're still really on like your roster of schools and stuff like that. And I was like, no, like I'd love to come visit. I feel like being able to visit a school is very important. And
Absolutely.
like the campus and just the people and everything like would fit with you. And so, long story short, I went in and visited, going home for Christmas break because it's on the way home.
Sure.
Stopped there, went and visited, and oh my gosh, I don't think I ever quit laughing or like smiling or joking around. Like, we talked the whole time. Me and the head coach, like, we're walking campus and he's supposed to be showing me buildings, and we're just like having conversations about like his practices and him and us and just like everything. And it was so much fun. And I met up with Lucy and we had lunch and just talked about her experience there and their new coaching staff. And they had just been there, I think just this past fall was their first actual fall. And so I talked to her about that and how she felt about them and the girls and the program and just everything like that. And it was just kind of one of those things where it just felt like there wasn't anything wrong.
Yeah,
and,
that's cool.
Everything just felt like it was very much falling
You
into
couldn't
place.
find a reason to not go.
Not at all. And so, and the goalkeeper situation happened to fall very well for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, starting with a new coaching staff, they had to let some people go and some people graduated and things like that. So, I mean, there was an open, I mean, there's no, in the spring, I'll be the only goalkeeper there. And so, long story short, the visit was great, and obviously they offered me at the end of the visit, and I took a few days, went on vacation with my family and just kind of talked through it all, prayed about it, different things like that. And then at the end of the vacation, I remember him calling me because I had the visit like a Wednesday or Thursday, and he was like, if you are going to commit, we kind of need to know by around like Monday, just because the schools are closing down for break. Like,
we'd like to know where we're at.
Right, and if you're going to come, we need you to like apply to the school, get all the stuff filled out, like make sure you're in there before the school closes down. And so I remember he called me on Sunday. I'm still on vacation, and I was going to call him on Sunday at some point. I was about to text him and reach out, but he calls me on Sunday and he's like, so, like, are there any concerns? Like, do you have any questions? Like, you and your mom, like, after talking that I can answer? Things like that. And I was just like, oh, no, like, I was like, you know what? We've talked about it and I've prayed about it, and I really think that Louisiana is kind of, like, where I'm supposed to be, and I think that's a part of my plan. And so I was like, you know, if y'all will have me, I'd love to come. Yeah. And it was so sweet, was so excited. He was like, you're gonna have fun, you're gonna enjoy soccer, you're gonna like, that's awesome. You're gonna play, like it's gonna be a great experience for you. We're gonna take care of you and all that good stuff. And so, I ended up committing, I guess, a few weeks ago now, three or four, and Louisiana-Lafayette is where I'll be in the spring. That's so cool. So now that we're getting close to that, I'm having to figure out when I'm gonna move back and getting my apartment figured out and things like that. But yeah, he's so sweet, and I mean, I've already met his family, and he has little young children, and I was like, I will love to babysit if you ever need a babysitter, because that's my oh my gosh, love children. But yeah, and so I think it's going to be a very great experience. I'm very excited.
It's the portal as a concept has been very interesting, because I think it's gotten some. There's obviously, I think your story is the positive, like what it's intended for, probably. Right. There's some other you know, kind of feelings about it where people are just jumping ship every semester. Right. And whether they're looking for whatever, more playing time, a more prestigious program, or whatever, more often than not it's going to be more playing time, right, obviously. But it seems to be a very interesting topic right now, and I definitely am happy to have that time to talk about it, because I think your story is what it's intended to be for, realistically. Right. And it's you've lost time through no fault of your own, in reality, and technically you haven't lost time. You just had eligibility.
I lost a year.
But it's like, but the situation you were going to walk back into at Auburn probably wasn't going to be what you needed it to be necessarily, or even, I don't want to use the word deserves, right? But like, you clearly were going there in this position to compete for one, right? To compete to be the one. You know, like, probably would have been the one without the situations happening the way they felt, especially the first one, right? So to feel like you're back into your prime, and to be like, okay, now I'm back in my peak prime, and I know I can walk in and be a starter somewhere, and to now be in a position where you basically are. Yeah. I think that's what, and with a program where like they want you to be there. Yes. Right? Like it's huge. I think that's probably what it's intended for.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't get access to obviously seeing like exactly what the portal is,
Yeah.
but I heard there were a ton of girls in there after even just the fall, which I thought would have been a better time for me to go in. I didn't think as many people were going to be in there in the middle of the year.
Yeah,
It's complicated, and there's a lot that goes into it, and whatever. And so I really wasn't expecting there to be as many as there were. And I just remember hearing from different people and different things like that like it was very crowded in there, and so then that made me nervous because I was
because the number of people that again, your position already has only
and goalkeeper is just something that's
on the field, right?
It's very different. Once schools have a set goalkeeper, it's usually very rare unless there's an injury that you get anyone else gets minutes in those years, and so that was very stressful too, but it very much worked out the way that I think it was meant to.
Absolutely.
And I think this will be a very great experience. I'm super excited. I think, and being able to go in the spring and kind of adjust and
exactly, you're going into off season, right? You're going to be able to keep getting stronger, right, in the weight room because you're going to be in the weight room more than you would be in the fall, I imagine, right? And then you have a full semester to train with them prior to preseason. And to get to know how, like you said, again, as your position, to full circle this conversation, I get to know how each one of these girls likes to be spoken to, what tactical information I need to learn before we go into a live scenario. You know, you'll have scrimmages against other teams across the area probably, but it's not, you have a good amount of time to put everything, you know, kind of into process and understand how it needs to work going into a season where it matters.
And I get to learn, like, I feel like I get to kind of learn the coaches as well, and I think the team's doing that too, so I feel like it puts us all at a very even level. And I think coming in the spring and being able to have the newcomers that come in or different transfers and me and then the coaching staff still learning the team that they already have and things like that, I think it'll be a very good like spot for all of us to be in, and then we can kind of just adjust in the spring and get things figured out, and then by the fall be ready to go. And I think they're trying to build a really great program, and then I feel like it's super cool to be able to be a part of who's trying to build program. And so knowing that I'll get to be a part of a program that's being built by a new staff and trying to, you know, get to a point where we're like winning conference championships and like that's really cool. So I'm very excited.
That's cool. That's really cool
to be able to have the chance to do that, because I think I've been dying to have that chance to kind of be able to make a difference on the field rather than just off of it.
It goes back to the sense of responsibility you have, right, already. Like, and that's another small thing that's lost when you're injured that you don't really think about or isn't really kind of put out there so much, is that like your sense of like, I'm responsible to this team. I'm fighting for this team every single time I'm on the field, and now I'm not in the field for 2 years. And I have all this passion that doesn't get to really be put into the place it needs to be put into.
And it was one of those things, like, off the field I was able to, like they made me feel a part of it. I mean, I did the team prayer before every game. I was right next to the coaches, like, during every game. Like, I was very much stayed involved in things like that, but it was just, again, like we had talked about, like one of those things where I was back to myself, and it's been a very hard adjustment trying to manage my feelings of like wanting to play and be able to help make a difference on the field and not being able to. And so I feel like I was starting to just really, I don't want to say not enjoy soccer, because I think I've always enjoyed it, but I think it was becoming more of a chore, or like a job, having to come out and train every day and do all the things, and then
you're not getting anything out of it, right? Like that's it's no one's fault necessarily that's the case, right? It's just
it's
a
the way it felt,
And exactly. If you're putting in something, anything, your job, your sport, your relationship, and you're not getting at least the same amount back out of it again, it starts to wear. It absolutely starts to wear on you, no matter the intentions or the context, and that's most likely what you're feeling, is the fact that like I'm putting in all this time to get myself back, and for no one's fault, I'm not able to get back what I want to be able to put in, and so it's not balanced. And so now you get that balance back.
I do. I'm very excited.
It's awesome. Let's kind of wrap it up with a little bit of, I don't know, I want to say kind of two things. Either funny story from youth. I always catch people on this one, or any kind of words of wisdom that you've been given or that you follow, right? Something that kind of ties it up with like, here's kind of what I live by when things go bad, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anything along those lines.
I think
that kind of take away.
I know. I'll try to think of a funny story.
Yeah, that's fair.
But no, I just think that it should be talked about more, the mental side of transitioning from club to college, and then I think the expectation from club to college, I think sometimes players get the wrong idea of like what they're getting into, or they expect more than they're gonna get, and so then it's a disappointment, or it makes it a lot harder when they do get into college when they're not getting the minutes they want, or they're struggling with like the workouts, or they're struggling with like the bond with the coaches and the players and things like that. I think it's better to have an open mind and just adapt and adjust as you go.
Okay.
And kind of just have a baseline of like, I'm going in and I'm just gonna focus on myself, and I'm gonna like be a great teammate, and I'm gonna do whatever, but if things aren't going my way, not to let it kind of tear you apart, because I think I mean, obviously I went in injured, so it was a little different for me, but I've also seen people that aren't injured and just kind of adjusting to like, you play every minute of club, you're very hyped in club, and
you're built up, you're kind of catered to in a way,
and then your coaches are very involved, like you're very much, it's just a very different, I think sometimes.
I've talked about this before, though. People I think that it's a wake-up call for a lot of people, and I'm sure it's across the board with other sports too. Even in football, you're the guy, you're the quarterback, you're the receiver, you're whatever, and like you're hyped up, and all of a sudden you go into a program where you're now the small fish in the bigger pond. With club soccer, you're paying them, right? So then their job, not just to coach you, but it's also manage that you're happy, because they need to keep you there, right? You're obviously a talented player, so they want to keep you happy. You're getting tons of minutes, and then all of a sudden that pond becomes an ocean, where now, especially a Power 5 school like Auburn or Alabama or Texas is recruiting from across the country, and now that pond gets much bigger, and all of a sudden they're paying you, whether it's just books or tuition or board. And now there's an expectation that you have to, if you can't do it, I don't have to teach you how to do it. I can go over here and pull this person, and they can just do it for me because they can do it.
Exactly.
And you're no longer being coached the same way, I bet. Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably
understanding
the
that concept, right?
And being more okay with it, and it comes with just, I think, just dealing with it and going through it and having to adjust as you go. But yeah, and then I think just not taking the years for granted. Like, it's really weird thinking that like next year I'll be a senior and done with my at least undergrad, and thankfully I do have extra years because of COVID and injuries, but like without that, I mean, anyone else after my age doesn't have a COVID year, and obviously if you don't get redshirted or injured, like you're done. And time just goes by so fast, and so I think it's just not taking for granted anything, and then just being able to enjoy everything. Like if you mess up or have a bad day, just like let it go, and just still be able to enjoy, because it just goes by so fast. And just trying to balance, I think, being able to have a college experience and have a soccer like D1 like experience as well. Like I think that's also something that I would like. I still have years, so I can do that. But for people that don't, I think it's very easy to get wrapped up in just the college soccer and the time consuming of how that is. And then by the time you're done with your 4 years, you're like, I never got to experience college and like what all goes into college and all the fun things that happen there, and being involved in just that kind of stuff. And so I think that's also something that people coming in should try to do, is try to find a more of a balance, I think.
It's fair. It's fair.
Which I've gone to with my injury and things like that, being able to have time to throw in different things. But just managing time and stuff like that.
Awesome.
But I don't know.
Stories are hard. I always throw that out there at the end, and people are like,
I just know there's so many funny stories from club with me, but I just like.
That's alright.
But
This is awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
So much
Happy
fun.
to be here.
Yeah. I always love having you come back.
I know.
You're one of the very few that I'm so happy to have come back and like train when
I
you're
know.
home. And,
I plan when I'm
Yeah.
like getting close to coming back. I'm like, oh, I gotta text him and let him know I'm coming. If he
Yeah.
can squeeze me
I
in at
think
any
this last
point.
time we literally like I think I texted you or one of us texted and the other one was just thinking about it.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You texted me and I was
Yeah.
like, I was just about to reach
Yeah.
out. Like, I'm about to be home if you have any time to squeeze me in.
Yeah, of course.
But
Awesome. Well,
but
thanks for
yeah,
doing this.
Of course.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.